Hello, this is Patrick Horvath, the creator behind Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and you are listening to the Oblivion Bar podcast.
Welcome to the Oblivion Bar podcast with your hosts, Chris Hacker and Aaron Knowles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 187 of the Oblivion Bar podcast. I'm your genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, Chris Hacker, and joining me is the show's anthropomorphic turtle with a bit of a stabby problem, my co-host and BFF, Aaron Knowles.
I like turtles.
I like turtles. Oh, man. Did you like how I struggled through that intro there, Aaron?
I did.
It was pretty fun. That's good times.
Sometimes it hurts me like on a spiritual level, but you know, there are things in this world I just can't change.
He can't be good at everything, guys. He's got to be bad at something.
He can't be this sexy and read good.
I don't read good, all right, but I look good. So, you know, that's debatable. Anybody, welcome back, everybody, to the Oblivion Bar podcast. This week on the show, we are talking to comic book creator Patrick Horvath. He joins us once again here on the Oblivion Bar to talk about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees over IDW and his upcoming one-shot over at Oni Press, Free for All, which is sort of the central pillar of this conversation, right, Aaron?
Right.
Oh, my favorite bit on the show where I set Aaron up to talk and he goes, yes, or right.
I'm sorry. Say that again because I had a little thing that popped up and it said reconnecting.
Oh, no.
So we're just
going to run with it. We're going to run with it.
Okay.
Just answer it normally.
Okay. I was just worried. I'm sorry.
We've been recording for like 3 hours, everybody, so we apologize if we're a little slap happy at this point. But what a pleasure it was to have Patrick back on the show.
I fucking love that dude.
He is the best. Everybody listening right now, if you're not familiar with Patrick Horvath and his game.
Chris, stop talking with your hands.
You guys can't see what I'm doing here. I'm talking with my hands currently, but Patrick Horvath is the best. He's the man.
Oh my God. He's one of those people. I don't know. I don't want to say it's romantic, but have you ever been to, like, Chris, you know this, you've been to a convention and like you see somebody that you know who's tabling and you see them from afar and then they see you and it's just like, we need to reenact this at like New York Comic Con or San Diego.
Okay.
But you see them from afar. It's just like that like, you know, Full House, like intro credit smile.
Anyway, you love it.
You know, and nobody can see what I'm doing, but it's like smiling like an idiot. But like you see your best friend, it's like, no, and he's that guy.
He's got like an orange aura behind him. There's like smoke coming up from the ground.
But he's the guy who's like, you see him and like, you know who he is. And he's just the nice, and it doesn't matter if you've ever met him, if you've never met him. He's just, he is so welcoming and like a warm, like person and a warm existence. And like, he is so nice. And like, he just genuinely like loves that people enjoy his shit.
Yeah. And we do. We absolutely love it. And we say in this conversation, I think it's worth reiterating here in the intro, that Patrick is such an easy person to root for in comics. You know, he's just, again, sort of to articulate what Aaron's saying here in a different way, is that like he is so warm and nice to everyone. And he gives his time to everybody who comes up to his booth. And it'd be so easy to be a fan of his outside of the fact that everything that he puts out is fucking incredible. So, I mean, granted, it's two things so far, everybody. He's done Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, which of course is an Eisner nominated series through IDW. It was nominated for Best New Series last year. And then again, what we're sort of talking about today, which is Free for All over Oni Press. It was previously Zoop crowdfunded, right? And now it's being released over at Oni Press, who we absolutely love. So this conversation with Patrick is great. We go into great detail about basically the success post Beneath the Trees, or sort of mid Beneath the Trees, and then sort of present day here with Free for All, which again, we're very excited for everybody to check out Free for All the week that this episode comes out. So as you're listening to this on Monday, that following Wednesday, you will be able to go to your local comic book shop and pick it up.
Go fucking get it.
This is a book that you guys want to support. This is a book that we hope down the road, we don't really get into it in this conversation, Aaron, but it is something that we would love to see more of down the road.
Yeah, he hints at it.
Yeah, he hints at it. Yeah, and we hope that it happens, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this, Aaron, this might be should we tease the thing? Should we tease the thing?
No.
Don't tease the thing yet.
Don't tease the thing.
It's not real yet, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry, everybody. I'm not going to cut this either. We're just going to leave it up into everybody listening right now. We're going to premiere a thing in the next week or two that sort of is pertinent
All
to.
I'm going to say is this is the only way that we let it go is when we get the contract.
Everybody listening right now, I only want to tell you something when it's real. Okay. So
yes,
just be ready for that when it eventually comes around the bend.
Contract in my hand.
Aaron, tell the people how they can support the Oblivion Bar podcast.
It's a lot easier than getting a secret out of Chris.
Yeah.
If you want to support the Oblivion Bar podcast, it's easy. Consider checking out our Patreon. For your support, you can gain access to a bonus episode each week called The Grid.
Grid.
Thank you, Chris. A behind the scenes.
I thought you were going to do it.
No, I let you do it this time.
All right, fair enough.
I'm always shaking things up, you know.
Yeah.
A behind the scenes look at how we prepare each episode with our episode transcripts and Patreon polls, a whole bunch of other exclusive goodies. We just package up a whole bunch of stuff and set it to our Patreon members, and we are absolutely loving the fact that people are posting what they're getting and like kind of showing off like their swag. I love it. Fucking love these. I love it. So if you want to be privy to all that goodness, make sure that you guys go and check over on patreon.com/Oblivion Bar Pod, where you can actually also sign up for a 7-day free trial just to give it a shot. You know, I'm not going to say that you're not going to love it.
There's a non-zero chance that you will love it.
Yes, non-zero.
Yeah.
I don't want to do like a double negative. You will
not like it.
Never love it. You will not like it. There you go. Or check out the show or check out the links in our show notes.
That's right. All right. Enough.
Why don't you pre-record this?
Yeah, this is the kind of craziness that happens when we record for 3 hours, everybody. Without further ado, without more madness happening here on the front and back bumper, you'll get more of it after this conversation with Patrick Horvath.
And now, this week's special guest.
Joining us today is the Eisner-nominated comic book creator of the 2024 smash hit Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees over at IDW Publishing. He's here today to discuss his upcoming giant-sized one-shot at Oni Press, Free for All, which delivers a brutal new vision of capitalism where in the not-so-distant future, the only thing left to fight for is yourself. It is our pleasure to welcome Patrick Horvath back onto the Oblivion Bar podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back.
God, nailed
Patrick,
it.
So great intro, Aaron. Great job there. Patrick, so great to have you back on the show. Aaron and I, secretly behind the scenes have been fiending to get you back on since the release of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Quick I guess not spoiler, kind of a sidebar is that we had you on the show right before, I think, the release of issue 3 of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. And while it was starting to gain a lot of popularity and traction, it hadn't fully boomed, I think, yet at that point. Maybe it was around that time, I think, is where it started to really get crazy. And I do want to, pick your brain on that whole scenario with Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. But first things first, I want to ask you, Patrick, you're based out of Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. How have things been since, the wildfires in January?
It has been, it's been a lot better than the first, basically all of January. I believe the fires kicked off around January 7, and it was pretty gnarly. Especially at the beginning of February, things have kind of gotten to normal with the sense that there's this like horrific, trauma in the Palisades and in Altadena, where a lot of folks are just homeless. They're basically trying to rebuild their lives as best they can. And we're at a point now where there's actual removal of the burnt structures and everything. And the city, or I think the state of California is helping out with that financially as well as the cities. But it's the idea that we're moving on, we're rebuilding, and there's still a concern about all of the toxic ash that kind of blanketed everywhere, and there's a concern about just being even like within a mile of the burn areas, and not having any sort of like mask or protection or whatever. So that's going to be an ongoing thing basically for, the next, I don't know how long, to be honest. Like that's kind of the scary part. That's the sort of the long lasting effects of it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the city has seemed to have like, we're back to sort of functioning as we were. But then that in and of itself was a whole different mess. So, I honestly don't feel like this town ever really got back on track, since the strikes, in 2023. Right. And just in terms of the industry, it honestly never has felt like it, like everything's changed. It's strange to be here. I've been here since 2006. So I've definitely seen a lot of different, sort of evolutions just in that time of the town, and how much like, streaming has changed everything and stuff like that. So this, and COVID obviously. And so like those, sort of wild evolutions have kind of made a mark on the town here.
Yeah.
But and it feels like the wildfires are like the latest.
Right. Just an impactful kind of environment, like every small thing that kind of, well, not small thing, but everything that kind of occurs in the world in that industry affects you in that area specifically.
Well, it's wild because it's, like the strikes, for instance, huge impact financially for the whole city, like cost the city billions because stuff's not running like normal. Restaurants aren't doing, like catering's not happening. Prop houses aren't operating, which already they were taking a huge hit from even like 2010-ish or something like that. We started having prop houses closing down, I want to say. And it was, and we had like a writer's strike in 2007, I think, right at the end of 2007. And
I only know that because of The Office. The Office.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
a weird hiatus.
But
I do remember that. Yeah.
I lost my job in 2007.
Oh no.
I was working at the time on a talk show, Chris. And it was.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it's that's what happens. That's the impact, right?
Yeah.
And so that one I believe cost the town like about $2 billion. So I can't even imagine what this one in 2023 cost us. So that's wild. And then you have all these people who literally have like built their lives up out here that work on stuff, and there's just nothing shooting here, but they've like basically built up a life that they can survive out here, in the industry where they do their work that they've been doing for, decades or whatever. And it's just there's so many people that left. There's like a ton of people that left, and they're just like, I have to like reinvent myself at 50 because this life is no longer sustainable. Which is wild. So it's just kind of like, it's weirdly, I feel, and I myself, like a little more background people don't know, like I worked in film, and then I also, working in comics has been a completely like kind of like a big left turn for me. I'm in my mid 40s right now. And so it has been, weirdly, I've always kind of been doing a lot of different stuff, and that has served me well. So like it's just the fact that I've been sort of a jack of all trades and master of none. I've been able to sort of, survive.
I think the master of none thing can be challenged. We may challenge that throughout this conversation, I think. And if you don't mind, Patrick, I'm going to try to dig us out of this hole here. I wanted to double check and make sure everything was good with you on your end there in LA, but this conversation, I hope, is going to be sort of a reprieve if we can help, or at least try to provide that a little bit, because we're going to spend the next 35 to 40 minutes just putting you on a pedestal and buttering you up.
Oh, you guys.
If we may, the last time we talked, as I said earlier, was around the initial release of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. And what proceeded to happen since that release has been this insane year. 2024 was this insane year for you, I think.
Agreed.
To sort of see it from the outside as a fan, it was just wild to see this instant success. Yeah, it's great to see. It was insane to see this, again, mega success. You garnered yourself an Eisner nomination for Best New Series last year. And it's gotten a ton of commercial and critical success. So it's sort of a big question here for you, Patrick, but how have you been adjusting internally to like the uptick in success and attention?
It's been really overwhelming in a good way. I'm very proud of this book and how well it's done, and obviously elated that the success has been so great, but it's also the type of, I'm not used to this at all. So like I am really trying to temper it by not thinking about it too much, and not letting myself go sort of spiral out in my head of just like trying to maintain anything. You know what I mean? It's strange because I don't like the big concern. So, and if nobody knows yet, like it has been announced, we're doing a book 2 for Beneath the Trees. And I'm in the middle of that right now. And at the start of scripting for that was just my immediate, like, sort of, concern was that I was going to get too in my head about like, man, I hope the follow-up is like going to be well received. Like, and then you start thinking about how it's going to be received. And at that point, I feel like you're in trouble. And so I, sort of pumped the brakes and then just kind of just took a look at the story itself and what it needed to be versus like if there was anything I should lean on from the first book, you know what I mean? That did work or whatever. Just to take a step back, the stuff that I was the most surprised about was the stranger elements that I put into the story that I personally didn't think were going to resonate with readers necessarily, but I put them in because I never thought I'd have another chance. I was like, well, if this is a book that I make, like let me make it as much me as I can. Let me put the weirdest stuff in I can get in there. And if they want to push back, like if editorial wants to push back, then I'll let them make a case for it. But I'm just going full steam ahead to see what I can get in here. That I felt was necessary, but I felt I mean, some of it's strange. So the fact that it was well received, it was just like blew me away. And then I guess that was my sort of North Star in terms of going forward, right? That it was like, well, if I guess it's just whatever the weird thing that's talking to me in my head, like I should be following that. And then let it get weird.
Yeah.
And I guess, and then just let it, maybe I am going to fall on my face, but at least I was just being myself.
Yeah. You're genuine. Can you give us some of those weird things? Can you give us a couple?
Oh, for sure. The 2 biggest ones for myself were issue 3, which follows Melody the Butcher, and then her sort of secret life that this interior life of grief that she's been dealing with, and her deceased husband and how she deals with that specifically. And then also issue 5, where it's Samantha kind of having like the Dark Night of the Soul issue where she's wrestling with a lot of, I guess like literal internal like demons, so to speak. So like those were like, I remember writing issue 5 is like almost all of it's in the second person with the narration, which I didn't even know I was going to do until I started writing it. I was like, I guess it's in the second person. Like, we'll see how this goes. Like, and so I just kind of rolled with it. And it, again, like that was definitely like one of those, like, I don't think I should do this, but I guess I'm gonna, because it felt necessary as I was doing it. And then I just waited to hear what editorial had to say about it. And Maggie Howell is my lead editor. And again, like they were great. IDW is wonderful. They didn't push back on anything. They just made stuff better. All the notes were better.
Yeah. Which IDW, where weird happens.
It was a dream. It was a total dream in terms of I got so lucky with just the how the book was received over there and everything. So they didn't have a problem with it, so I just kept going with it and yeah. But those for sure were the 2 weirdest that I was like, I don't know how readers are going to react to this, especially after the first issue came out, and then I was like, well, they're going to get to 3 and be like, what the hell is this? And then 5, and I was like, 5's gonna be, I don't know what they're gonna make a 5, but we'll just whatever. Because also like 5 isn't even necessarily like, it's kind of like a grisly whodunit is the setup. Yeah. And 5 isn't that at all. Like it's more of like she's haunted by sort of her past in a way, and then she's having this struggle with herself, and like there's no like murder necessarily. Well, there's a definite like a fight to the death. I guess that happens in it. But I mean, like the sort of strangeness and everything. I don't know. But I mean, but yeah, as far as I know, like a lot of people were really into it. They felt it was as compelling as the other issues and stuff like that. So, and some of it, I mean, to be honest too, like those are the moments as a creator that I was so excited to put in because they're not necessarily like they're not as easily digestible. And so they tend to be things that the reader will take with them beyond the book and might have like spinning around their head. And those are honestly some of my favorite elements to put into my work. Like just those moments that you'll carry with you. Same thing with in the film work too. Like if I can put those moments in, like I just feel like really interesting art to me is the stuff that you take with you from a creator.
100%.
I absolutely still am stuck on. There's the scene where Samantha is like burying the body, and then the bear comes into the scene.
Yeah,
issue 1,
and that for some reason still like lives rent free in my head and just like plays over. It's just such a surreal. I don't even know. I still don't know how to describe it. It's just like a surreal yet powerful, introspective moment that you're just trying to like understand in this universe while Samantha's kind of doing the same exact thing, you know? Right, and it just implanted itself.
I don't know if you've ever described what that means. And I don't, here's the thing. I want that to be like your Rosebud. I don't want you to explain it. I want that to just live rent free in all of our heads forever. And then we just sort of speculate on it forever. Like that would be my hope, unless you've already talked about it, in which none of this matters. But I kind of hope that it is. Sort of a secret.
I've definitely discussed. I mean, I've discussed like my inspiration for it. I've been very hesitant to spell out like what it means for me specifically. But it, you know, a lot of the, I think I can't remember if I mentioned this last time or not, but the obviously like children's storybook stuff was a big inspiration. And the specifically Richard Scarry's series of books about Busytown. And there's a book that he did, one of the Busytown books called What Do People Do All Day? And on the cover of that it's just like, it shows a bunch of stuff. And one of the segments is a little series of shops. And one of the shops is a butcher shop with a pig that's the butcher. And they have like sausage links and like the window. And you're just like, this is so like twisted. Like, I mean, obviously it was very tongue in cheek, but at the same time, like a lot of children wouldn't think twice about it, I would imagine. But it seems so insidious to put it in a children's book. And then that honestly was like the big inspiration for Melody the Cat, the butcher's like, there's got to be a butcher. And then also there was obviously an existence of some sort of food animal in the Busytown universe. And then I was like, and then you also see like pets, like they have like dogs and stuff that they're walking or cats or whatever. Yeah. And so I was like, well, there's like, you know, it's like Pluto and Goofy or whatever. We've got like the two types of animals. Like, let's definitely do that. And I honestly just because of those two things, that's why I wanted to have regular animals. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, well, like we should have like nobody hip to what Samantha's been doing except for like the animals, the actual animals. And they see the truth of Samantha in some way, right? They're at least on the very base level, they literally are aware of what like Samantha's doing. Even if they don't, you know, they're just animals. But I mean, like,
even if they can't articulate it.
Yeah. Like but they're like witness to it in their own animal way. And I was like, that's interesting. And then that was my starting place with that stuff.
There's also the element of like your animalistic side is looking at you as you're performing. The
I mean, yeah. The fact that, I was very specific. I was like, it has got to be a bear that's looking at Samantha, and it's got, you know, and then the more, and I didn't even know where I was going to go with it yet as I was writing issue 1, but like, obviously, like it sort of bloomed into a larger thing. But that was very, it was just kind of it was a funny, weird thread to follow. And it really, I mean, I was really happy with how it paid off.
Yeah, it paid off for me. So, you've already kind of mentioned this in the conversation so far. You said that, you know, IDW did announce the sequel to Beneath the Trees called Rite of Spring. So it's part of their new horror imprint, IDW Dark. So far, the only detail teased about the sequel is that we are jumping 8 years in the future, placing Samantha in the 1990s. We're not going to try and mine you for insider information, but is there anything significant about this next story being set in the 90s that you can kind of give us an appetizer?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I definitely am leaning into the context of the 90s, which is very similar to like the US of the 90s. And it takes place in the US, but it's like slightly different. If you really want to go deep in it, like if you look at the calendar in the first book, it's off from our calendar by a couple of days. Like, it doesn't match up by a couple of days. You know what I mean? Like, because it takes place in September of 1986. And the days don't match up right. Like, and so I made it slightly askewed so that there were animal people and you could play, there's no town called Woodbrook in Vermont. There's no city that looks like New York that's nearby. You know what I mean? And so, so in regards to that, I kind of wanted to keep it loose, but at the same time, I do want to have like those cultural moments that we were going through in the 90s. And this was set in the 80s, obviously. So I was like, one, I wanted to have a big time jump. And then as I thought about it, I was like, well, it's set in the 90s. What would that mean? So if it's like 1994, like globalization starting to happen, we're losing a lot of like factory work and stuff, and that's going overseas, and then also the internet is a thing, like especially in the States, they're becoming connected, and there's a lot of
the .com boom and all
yes,
that.
exactly. And then also there was a boom in real estate with suburbs exploding and and like forests clearing to make room for corporate land development and stuff like that. So like there's like all these elements that felt like that was like, oh, her world's like getting smaller, and it's becoming a problem. Like what would that setting? What would the story be like in that setting? And then also, of course, we have like everyone who survived the first book is 8 years older. The children have grown up. Like it's definitely it just felt like it was really rich to make that jump, and then also have something who, for folks that are aware of it, could kind of sink their teeth into in terms of like what the 1990s in the U.S.
nostalgia.
Yep, a little bit of that, a little bit of, and also I made it. And it's not to say like it's nostalgia, but then also it's something that I still feel like is a direct line to where we're at right now.
Oh yeah.
And we're still dealing with the fallout of the 80s, to be honest, but like but I mean, anyway, so,
particular leadership that was involved around that time frame may or may not be right. Yeah. Well, this might be kind of a big question. I'm just curious, based on what you just said there, that, with the 1990s and sort of, the reflection of the 80s, and then now we're into the 90s. You said that her world is getting smaller. It feels like this world is just rich of different interpretations of where you can take it. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you could continue to work on Beneath the Trees for as long as people want it? Or do you feel like Right to Spring is just sort of the next thing you want to talk about, right? Like, are you just sort of planning up to Right to Spring, or is there much more, do you feel, that you could potentially go to?
Oh, I could definitely do more. I am of two minds. Which was the same way I approached the first book, which is to say, like, I hope I get to do more. I have a plan to do more, but I also have a plan to be like, if we get to, like, for instance, when I was writing the first book, I was like, if this is it, then let's have it be closure, but not be like complete closure. And so that's the same way I'm approaching the second book. But yes, there's so much more that could be done with it. Even just after writing the first couple of issues of that first book, I was just like, well, there's obviously like, man, I could do a lot. Like there's like so much more we could be doing. I don't want to limit myself. But at the same time, yeah, I don't want to, I just felt like it would be such a faceplant to be like, and there's obviously like so much more story that has to be told. And then be like, and you never hear from me or something. So it's like, let me just bring it to a sort of close. And so the same thing with 2. I definitely, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. It seems like you're sort of tempting fate at that point if you sort of plan too far meticulously.
And I feel like I'm being a bit presumptuous, because I think that there's so many different aspects of Beneath the Trees that are so open to creating more, and also like being adapted? Is there any kind of talks of adapting Beneath the Trees into any other format?
There's definitely been talk. There's been talk about doing a series. There's been talk about doing a film. And I think the most recent thing that had been going around was the film version of it. And to be honest, I haven't heard anything follow-up wise from that. The deal I have with IDW is like, I mean, they're heading all that up. I believe they just kind of have the rights to run with it, and then I get the rights back after a certain number of years. Basically, that's kind of how it's just a rights reversion deal that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's interest, but it's, as far as I understand it, like it's weird, I guess. And for those execs that would be the people calling the shots, I guess it would be weird for them. I completely appreciate that. To me, I feel like it would do really well as a thing. But at the same time, I'm also very not precious about it. And if it, like, for instance, if it does happen and it's not really the version of the thing that I would want it to be, I have the book already and it was exactly like I wanted it to be. And so anything else is sort of just, icing on the cake. Or if it's weird and not really that well done, then it's like, well, it's, was that thing. I made it as a comic and it should be read as a comic type of, you know what I mean? It's fine. I have no drive to try and do something with it myself. That was
gonna be my next question. Did you want to be involved?
I do want to be involved, if I can be, because I would like to help offer guidance as like a supervisor, producer, or even writing. I would write the scripts.
You obviously have experience in that realm already, so
exactly. That's kind of like what I was kind of getting at, because I know you have experience in the industry.
I definitely don't want the pressure of trying to make it successful, because there's so many other moving
You're like,
pieces.
just do it like the book.
There's
do it like the book. I already did it.
There's so many different moving pieces once you get into whatever. There's like just all these other, if it's animated, then it's going to be animated, animators working with it. I don't know if it's going to be a 3D or if it's going to be just a 2D thing, or it's going to be stop motion or what.
What would you think would be the most, like, if you could choose, what would be the format? Movie, TV, animated?
I think a series would be good. I would totally just do it like as a 6-episode series, and then do it stop motion, and that's the way I would do it.
Oh yeah,
just so that it felt like, so it felt really tactile, and because I feel like that's really important to the vibe of it.
Yeah.
I was sort of viewing like the old PBS cartoons like Arthur and Franklin. Like I was thinking like those, maybe that kind of vibe, but obviously you're the expert in it. I don't have any real say in it.
I mean, like, again though, not precious. It could totally be all that stuff. I mean, let's
go Japanimation. All right.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
anime style.
I feel like all the anime kids would love this.
Yes, absolutely. I think, like, to speak on this, and I want to get in. This is sort of my loose transition into Free for All. I think both of these could very easily be adapted into like an adult animation style, right? Yeah. And again, this being my segue into that next topic here, Free for All, which is your new one-shot, giant-size one-shot over Oni Press, hits shelves on March 26th. It'll actually be coming out the week that this episode is coming out. And this tells the story of a world at peace. Housing, food, education, healthcare, all the basic requirements for living are now provided by the World Finance League.
Ludicrous.
And is being funded. What's that?
Ludicrous. What kind of world is that?
World beyond worlds. Impossible things are happening over here. And it's all funded by a lottery. And this lottery has the wealthiest citizens in the world being picked randomly and given a choice to either donate half their funds and their assets to the greater good. When I hear the greater good, I think of
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. There it is, yeah. The greater good.
The greater good.
Calling yourself a community that cares.
Oh, but we do care, Nicholas.
It's all about the greater good.
The greater good.
How can this be for the greater good?
The greater good.
How can this be for the greater good?
The greater good.
Shut it!
For the greater good. So the greater good of the world, or they will fight to the death to keep it all. So among these trillionaire, billionaire gladiators, there are two former lovers square off in this global arena to settle their differences once and for all. Now, Patrick, saying all that, this is a 2-part question that I have for you here.
Sure.
Was there a particular moment in history that sort of prompted this idea? And then part 2 of that question is, can we make this a real thing like tomorrow? Like, can we make it a real thing?
So part 1, the book was basically born out of frustration following the 2016 US election. I just felt like a lot of the turmoil had like this central kernel of that it was wrapped around that was like income inequality. It felt like a lot of it was this sort of really frustrated feeling that a lot of it seemed to be tied to and like income inequality and then the problems that came out of that, basically.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, it would be, awesome if we could solve income inequality, obviously. I mean, we've been dealing with it forever, basically. But
trickle down economics, though, Patrick.
But I mean,
trickle down economics.
But the in 2010, I think it was, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates started this thing called the Giving Pledge, and it was like, hey, we want to try and convince rich people to donate half of their wealth, like 50% of your wealth. It's called the Giving Pledge. Let's sign you up and have you promise to do that. And that was their big thing. And it would be like 50% of their wealth given to like philanthropy. Like, so that was their idea, which is problematic in and of itself. Like that, just having the whole rich savior thing is a whole nother, we'll sidebar that issue for now. But it was just in and of itself. I was like, well, I mean, yeah, or they could just pay their taxes. But I mean, it was like, it's, basically like if they could, what if they gave like 50% of their wealth? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess that would be a step in the right direction. But then I was like, it would be like, and then my mind immediately just went to like a sort of Paul Verhoeven version of like what that would be. And it was like, oh yeah, upon pain of death. Like that would be the thing. And I was like, no, like what if it was like you could keep it all, but you had to fight to the death for it. And I was like, that would be interesting. And I was like, because like some people would refuse to give any money away, even though they could never spend it in a lifetime. And so that's kind of where it came from. And at the time, I also just wanted to make something that I was honestly just going to put out. Just going to put it out digitally just to be done with it. I just wanted an example of my work just to make it. And so I kind of had that cathartic drive to just do something at the time. And I wrote it down relatively soon after that. Now, honestly, I didn't finish it till much later, but that was kind of how it all came together.
Was it on your website for free for a bit?
It was.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah. Like way back when I first finished it. Like pandemic
and then it goes
times.
to Zoop.
Yeah, and then we went to Zoop, and after Beneath the Trees came out, Zoop asked if I'd ever want to print it, and I was like, "Oh yes, like that would be great. Let's do what." I was definitely curious about their platform, so I gave that a shot. And then right when that campaign stopped, I had people that were like, and I was tabling a bunch during the year. And so after the campaign, they were like, "Oh, this free for all looks cool. Can I buy that?" I was like, "Well, it's not it." We did a campaign. They're like, "Oh, great. Where do I sign up?" I was like, "It's actually already done. Like we already did the campaign." Like, and I had like so many more people that were like, "Oh, okay." But then it was around that time, Hunter Gorson from Oni reached out and was like, "Hey, what are your plans after the Zoop campaign's done?" And I was like, "Well, I don't. It's just going to live on my hard drive again. I don't really have a plan." They were like, "Well, let's could we give it a home at Oni?" And I was like, "Yes, we could." Like we could give it a home there. So I felt super blessed that he even reached out about it. So that's how it came to find this release with Oni. And they have like totally put a ridiculous amount of muscle behind it. They've been great. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel very lucky, basically. Like I've had this amount of luck that's popped up around the end of 2022, and I've just been riding this wave of just really good fortune that I'm very happy to take as long as it lasts, because I know it doesn't last forever.
Again, we've been sort of speaking on it this entire conversation of that exact wave, and to sort of speak on Oni as well. My gosh, what do they got in the water over there?
Dude,
the early part of Oni is insane.
So their whole slate for the year is awesome. And it's been, again, just very good fortune on my end to be included in that somehow.
You're headlining it, Patrick. What are you talking about?
No. I mean, I feel like, even as we're speaking, I think today, Out of Alcatraz came out. And it's so good. It's so
awesome.
good. I ended up, I put it on my pull list as soon as I read issue 1 because I was just like, this is like, I want to just read it with my own hands because I do prefer that. And then 2, it was just like, it's pitch perfect, you guys. Like, it's so good. I was really blown away by it, and have enjoyed the work from both of the creators for quite a while in their own regards. So it was just like, and they make a hell of a team. So it's been really fun. But also many other books too that they got coming up. And we were at Comics Pro in February. And so I went along to help, spread the word about the book. But also I got to sit in on their presentation, and they just have an awesome slate. And it's a ton of really cool creators. And it's just really neat.
I love that you're just trying to distract us from talking about your book more. and I don't know why, and just full transparency to the listeners, Chris and I had a chance to read Free for All, which is 46 pages, 44,
56
pages. It is perfect. It is.
Yeah, it is great.
It is so timely. It is entertaining.
Yeah, weird.
It is a little weird.
It's the tightest 56 pages you've ever
Yeah,
read. It's all right there. All you need.
I blew through that thing twice, and I'm just like, this is such like a current like palate cleanser with everything that's going on in the world. It is so like, this is the perfect time for it to come out for people
it's a power
to
fantasy.
hold. Yeah, it's great. So like, again, the characters are like just so interesting. The premise is I want to say capturing, or just, I don't know. I want to go back and read it again because just the it's like this interesting mix. It's like an amalgamation of, what would you call it? Like gladiatorial combat and the rich eating the rich. And it just meshes it together in this world that also is like, again, a commentary on our just disgusting intake of social media and screens, and just like it just hits on so many things in the right way, subtly, and I just want to read it again. So like, I'm telling people, like, if you're not on board or you haven't seen Free for All on your pull list or at your shop, go get it, because like, you don't want to miss this one, because like, it'll just make you it's violent, but it'll make you feel better. And that's a weird thing to say. It's a weird thing to say.
Well, that's very, very sweet of you to say all that. I really sincerely appreciate it. It was definitely another thing I should mention too, like inspiration wise, was Scott McCloud's Destroy. Are you familiar with that? It was sort of a cathartic thing he did. It was this oversized comic of these two superheroes just like going at it over Manhattan. And they basically tear Manhattan apart as they're fighting, which is funny because like, it was done very ironically when he made it. And it was then basically replicated unironically in the Superman. In the final fight of the first Superman. And I remember watching, I mean, like, this is like Destroy, but this is not tongue in cheek. Like, this is like very, whatever. But anyway, it's and again, like Destroy from Scott McCloud. Like, if you haven't checked it out, like, please check it out. It's a total masterclass. It's hard to get your hands on, but it's around. And if you can find it, like, I highly recommend it. It's super smart and well done. Mine is not nearly as well done, but it was very much inspired by it because it was this sort of oversized one shot that he did that was just kind of, he was just getting it all out. You know what I mean? And it's funny because I think even like, I want to say like, I'm probably getting this wrong, but it was something like Alan Moore had sort of spoken about how it had unwittingly ushered in the age of like image superheroes or something like that. Ooh. Like this comic did. But
I can see that.
So anyway, that was part of it too. But I very much wanted to do something that, got my frustrations out, and also was something that I very much wanted it to be easy to read, just easy on the eyes as you made your way through, so that you could kind of devour it all in a quick sitting. But to have, I'm really glad to hear that you're revisiting it, because that was the other hope, is that it would be like a multiple reader, which is what I was kind of aiming for.
It absolutely is. Absolutely. It's one that makes you like look at it and then like, you're like, huh. And then you go back to a certain page and you just find yourself like rereading through it just to see what you kind of miss. Because again, like I'm thinking about all these, there are people who are, and I'm again, not spoilers, but there's like people who are witnessing this big event. I have so many things to say that I don't want to give stuff away, but they're in the audience and they're still looking at screens.
Yeah.
But also like, let me just real quick talk about one thing I love about any good story is resolution. And in this book, there's just this simple like bow at the end of it. And it's not something that's flashy. It's not something that's big, but you go through this story and you're like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is interesting. What could happen? And then it's just wrapped up with this nice, again, simple bow. And it just works so well. Oh, and like, I again, like that's what, again, you're giving somebody who is like a resolution whore, like a much needed like fix, you know?
Yeah. And you know what I love about it, Patrick, honestly, besides the entire 56 issue span of the book, is you sort of front load the beginning half of the book with a lot of information. You let people know what's going on. And then like the last 12 pages is just as a brawl. It is just back and forth. The two combatants. And again, we're going to try to stay as spoiler free as possible. Yeah, it's like literally Cable Guy. It's just back and forth action. And as Aaron said, it's very satisfying that those final, I would say 4 or 5 pages for sure.
Oh, thanks guys. I'm glad that worked out. And I definitely, it was a big, I definitely wanted to paint the picture that this was like a globally, watched thing and in the future, it was just so like, it was sort of the idea behind, going to see whenever I go to see movies after digital theaters started happening, it felt like I was just in like a big living room. like there's this weird sense that like the sort of magic of the theater stopped a little bit because I was like, so we're just watching like a projector from like that could be like a TV screen, and so because it wasn't film anymore, it was like less magical to me. And then there was this, and everybody's just on their phones. Except for like some theaters, obviously, that are a little more like strict about it. But like by and large, like screens are kind of everywhere. And then anytime you go and see like a show, like a live music show, it's just like a sea of just screens. Which I get. I mean, like you're
not living it. You're literally watching it through your phone.
I know. Yeah. And it was so strange to me to be like, this is what we're always going to see. And so it was funny to me that it was gonna be like we're just stuck with this, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it had to be like a part of it. And then also the idea that like it was, I don't know, that there was no real difference between like experiencing it there, experiencing it on the screen or whatever sort of weird video apparatus thing you have. But then also it was like the Truman Show, move of like you kind of get to see everyone in their own weird little domestic bubble of how they're watching this thing. And at the same time, it's like, it's resonating with people, right? Across all these different ways too. And so like, it was very interesting to be like, the starting place for the society was in my mind, kind of like almost like Star Trek, like post-scarcity thing where like, money hasn't been abolished yet, but it's probably not far away. And it was, so in many ways it seemed utopian, but then obviously like this weird like fight to the death thing being at the center of it all was very problematic.
We're totally desensitized to everything.
And exactly.
That's what stood out to me because and before we move on to the next question, because I know we don't want to take all your time this evening, but it felt like this was supposed to have been like a further developed society that had figured out how to solve like sickness, homelessness, hunger, like all this money was being poured into society by the rich. And yet this is such a mirror to society because we don't change. We're still animalistic. We're still just suckers for the screen and the entertainment and the death and the gore. So like, that's what I felt it was. Like you could tell me,
I think it's probably the better way.
Yeah.
Tell me all day long that in the future in Star Trek, yes, there's no money. Everybody's so evolved and educated, but I guarantee you there's still some instinctual darkness that lays, beneath the trees.
Yeah, there has to be. And it felt like that. And to me, this is obviously like the satire's turned way up on this thing, right? But at its heart, though, yes, that was like it seemed impossible to imagine a version of this that didn't have like, what's the problem? You know, it's like, yes, this all seems great, but like, what's still a problem? You know what I mean? And I feel like I'll also say like this one shot is very much like it's. I mean, I told the story I wanted to do and I was done with it. I'm very excited that it exists as it is. But and again, the same thing with the first book of Beneath the Trees. Like, it's possible I might revisit this thing at some point in my life because, like, why not? You know what I mean? Because there's like obviously so much that you could do with it. But
there's always a billionaire that can die.
Yes.
We can always kill a billionaire.
It felt like it would be you know, just something that there's just so much, it was just so rich in terms of, you know, where you could do with it, whatever.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now let's dig a little bit deeper real quick, because there's one thing that we wanted a little bit of clarification on. So the bottom of Ted's breastplate reads "De melior sedere," which we think translates to "from a better star." It feels like you make a specific point to show the reader that towards the beginning of the issue, first, like, were we correct with the translation? And then second, what does that phrase mean to you?
Lords. It was, I have to do a deep dive on this. It's a good question, you guys. There was a reason for it. I'm trying to remember.
The way that I sort of interpreted it was "from a better star," meaning that Ted, throughout the story, and again, without spoilers, he sort of feels though as he deserves this stuff. He deserves to be a billionaire. He deserves to have all this money. You could sort of see that through his actions. Mm-hmm. And from a better star, I mean, you could say that Earth is a star, right? Like a star to me sort of feels like a place rather than like a ball of fire floating in space, right? So from a better star, just I sort of interpreted that like he's from a better place. He's a better person. He deserves to have this money, this, you know, the fame that goes along with him participating in the free for all of the things.
I mean, yeah, I think that's fair. To me, you know, Ted Brooks just in general is basically a very much like, he feels like he's very much a self-made man, right? Mm-hmm. And the main problem he's got going on is hubris. Like, he just feels like he's untouchable. And he's also essentially a psychopath, right? And I feel like he feels essentially ordained by all of history and all. When you get into that weird, as you read the book, there's these pages that, like, I don't want to ruin them if you haven't seen them because they're kind of fun to come upon, but like they're these wild, awesome, like flayed head pages that get into the mantras that are going on inside them. And with Ted, it very much was. Oh, I found it. I think, you guys. Sorry. I'm like looking at the same time that I'm talking. So De Meliore Sedere, I think, it had to do with like kings and the Pope.
And the main reason why we asked was because it feels like there's a couple panels where it is so prominently shown that you were trying to show it to and as we've talked about, like through Beneath the Trees, we were talking about the calendar. It doesn't feel like a lot of things end up in your books on accident.
No, it was like, yes. And good catch. It definitely was part of, here it is. Yeah, I think, De Meliore Sedere, I think it was the coat of arms from Pope Innocent VII. This is like the 1400s. But I think it was very much like the idea of it being like ordained by God to sort of be this leader. And his own mind was sort of like without fault. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted him he has a very like old school Roman frame of mind. And I feel like he couldn't, it's impossible for him to not think that he's just like basically player number one in his own video game. If you were to sort of take a line that's been said about some other billionaires of recent time. And so that was the main reason for it. I feel like the armor itself was sort of important enough to take time, and I did different versions of what it might be. For Ted, it very much was Roman inspired, and then with Luella, it was more Aztec, and it felt like it was culturally sort of part of their own ancestors. So it felt like that was kind of where to reach from. and put something in there.
Ted's mask sort of reminded me of like a dark elf from like the Thor comics. It has this very particular pointy-eyed view, almost like stoic, unemotional.
Yeah. Yes.
It's almost like he's putting on the mask of unemotion in a way.
100%.
I don't know. There's probably a more romantic way to say that. But
nope.
Nope.
Like,
That's
to
it.
me,
We got it.
I was totally just like, it was this very like stoic thing is why he goes into the fight with it with Luella too.
Yeah.
The idea that he would just sort of be, I mean, it's how he feels on the inside is kind of how I felt about it. And then he's doing it because it's interesting because with this, especially with this setup, with this gladiator setup, like there's a theatricality to it. Especially for Ted. And then also like with the first billionaire that gets thrown into the fight, he is sort of like at the
Cameron
mercy
Miller.
of it all.
Yeah.
Cam Miller. And,
For hoarding children's cancer
what
medicine.
a chump. that was also, I think that was exactly at the time when that I had some feelings about.
Oh yes, what's his name?
Yeah,
the guy who was it EpiPens that he was boosting up prices for?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. He's not even worth remembering, honestly, everybody. Look it up if you want to, but he's a piece of shit.
The thing that I saw about that and the armor and some of these things that you put in there was, to me, it felt very important to these, like, especially like a lot of the characters, that they all had their own like internal mantras or like philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like each of these characters was so driven by their own philosophy, and he felt like, kind of like what you said, he kind of felt like he was quote unquote chosen by God to be like almost, the chosen one, but he just had that's why he was like, fuck the lottery. He just knew that he was going to win. Like that's in his brain.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to win because he felt that his philosophy was much more like, basically his value, his philosophy, his ethics were like so much more important than everybody else. He's just walking around the arena, like fucking people up. Pardon my language, but like, and because like it felt like everybody had their own, again, mantra that was like important to them and kind of like carried them through the story.
100%. Yeah. And it felt that to me, it was, that was why he was so good at business.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that was like, he's as ruthless as you need to be.
Ted's like a lot of billionaires, it seems like, which is that a lot of money at some point is no longer important to them. It's power.
Oh,
That's
100%.
what they strive for.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're seeing that right now, everybody.
I mean,
just turn on the local news.
Feel like, it's interesting. I mean, speaking of it, and again, we mentioned this a couple of times already, and so I obviously made this a while back. Like the inception of it was definitely like a while ago, and it couldn't have been. It's like even more prescient than like I'd even like had thought of it at the time.
Oof.
Like to
how
like
is this more relevant now?
The nth degree. Like it's nuts. The richest person in the world is literally like firing people.
Did Patrick Horvath just tell the future?
And so the I mean, we shall see. But the thing that's wild about it to me as well is just that I just read this. I don't know if you've read this yet, but there's the book Careless People that just came out from Sarah Wynne Williams, who was a former foreign policy person for Meta. But before they were Meta, like when they were just Facebook. And then she came on around 2010 and just literally just came out like last week. It's a tell-all memoir about.
Is she the one that was doing the ghostwriting for a lot of the Republicans?
No.
Am I thinking of the right person? Okay.
No, sorry. I think this is somebody else. She's New Zealand. She's from New Zealand. Anyway, so she kind of just has like, a ringside view of like, where she was just in it, basically while they kind of came to power, like Facebook came to power. And listen, there's probably issue that you could have just in her own participation with all this stuff, et cetera. But I feel like it's a fairly like, accurate portrayal of a lot of what was going on. And it just kind of struck me that like, we're just, have been, in the modern era, just kind of trying to ride the Bronco as like billionaires are just doing whatever the cost effective thing to do is that's their plan. And it's
Bezos take the wheel.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, what's wild to me too is there's this wonderful podcast called, it's also a radio show on KCRW out here, called Question Everything. And they did a roundtable discussion about different journalists whose beat is like billionaires. Like they have been covering them a lot in different aspects of everything. And one of the main discussion that kind of comes out from this is that a lot of them, like the former guard of billionaire, was sort of like the Trump era, where it's like they're all concerned about legacy or getting your name on things, whatever. And the new guard is more like, so the apocalypse is going to happen. I just want to know, like, how much money I need to survive it, and where do I build the bunker? Like, that's the main, like, and the irony is that the apocalypse is happening because they're amassing their wealth is kind of facilitating it.
We're putting us on a streamline towards it.
Yeah. So like, and so it just, I don't know. It's so wild to me to find ourselves in these times where we're just like, it's just crazy. It's like every day something new. And it just seems to be going faster and faster. And I feel like something's got to give at some point. And who knows what that's going to be. But it just blows me away that this is the world where this book's coming out.
All right, Patrick, I'm going to try to dig us out of this billionaire hole because I have one more segment for you here. We have one more segment, and it's a brand new segment that we just premiered with Matt Fraction and Michael Allred last week. It's called Hey Kids, It's True or False Time.
Excelsior.
All right. Now the name is pending. Okay. It's not a great name, but we're workshopping it currently, and we'll come up with something better. But the name of the game here, Patrick, is that it's a speed round of 10 true or false questions. And there are only two rules. Two rules are you have to answer as quickly as possible, and you can only answer true or false. All right.
Okay.
Now, generally, the kicker with this game is that if you answer more than 8 questions, we had 7 for those two, but it was too easy. So we decided to up it to 8 questions right. If you get 8 questions right, we will donate our entire month's worth of Patreon money to the Hero Initiative.
Oh, man.
So fortunately, both Matt and Michael got 7 questions right and 8 questions right. So they've already got our money for the month, but we still wanted to play with you because we curated these questions for you. So are you ready to play our true or false game?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Let me get my song. Let me get my music ready. And this is Aaron's first time playing the game as well. So it's the first time for both you guys. All right, Patrick, here we go. Question number 1. California has more billionaires than the rest of the United States combined.
True.
It's actually false. California has 186. The rest of the United States has 573, but that's they are leading by a lot, I guess is the main point there. Question number 2. The average speed of a brown bear is 50 miles per hour.
True.
It's false. The average speed is 35 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Let me give you a layup
35?
here.
Was it 35?
35 miles per hour.
Yeah. I was going to say 30 something, but I was like, it'd be cool if it was 50.
Yeah. All right. Here's a layup David Lynch question for you here, okay? All right. David Lynch's 1986 film Blue Velvet. Dennis Hopper, his character Frank Booth, is the only person to say fuck in the film.
False.
It's actually true. He's the only person to say fuck. That's true. Yeah. He actually says in every sentence but one sentence in the entire movie of all of his lines.
That's hilarious.
All right, question number 4. We're not doing good, Patrick. We're 0 for 3
That's okay. You should have hired me on first.
Question number 4. To be honest, these are a little bit harder. They're not as easy as what Matt and Michael had. Guitarist composer Glenn Branca was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
True.
That is true.
Yeah, Glenn Branca's awesome.
Yep.
I love that dude.
Question number 5. Blood is approximately 30% of the adult human's weight.
True.
It's false. It's only 10%.
Oh, man. I mean, like, okay.
All right. Okay, here's question number 6. The first Universal monster to get his own film, or to get their own film, is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
True.
That is true. It was the 1913 movie. Herbert Brennan was the first one to put out Universal.
I didn't even know it was 1930. I was going to say 1920s Frederick March one.
I think that's number 3. I think it's number 3.
Oh, far out.
Question number 7. Wolverine: The Jungle Adventure is written by Mike Mignola.
Oh, false.
That is correct. That is false. Is written by Walter Simonson,
See,
but it is illustrated by Mignola.
Yeah, Mignola knocks it out of the park.
I know you're a big fan of that one, so I had to test your knowledge on
Yes,
that
I appreciate it.
one. Question number 8. We have the first sliced bread machine was invented in Iowa.
Oh. Yeah, true.
That is true.
Yes.
Otto Frederick Rohlwelder, I think is how you say that last name.
Probably
is,
German.
Yeah. It was invented in Davenport, Iowa. It was the first single loaf bread slicing machine. Question number 9. The 2011 film Drive features Ryan Gosling, Ron Perlman, and Christina Hendricks.
True.
That is true. All 3 star in the film. Last question here, number 10. We have the 1982 film Creepshow was Stephen King's first screenwriting credit.
False?
That is true. It is his very first screenwriting. It's not his first film, but it's his first screenwriting credit.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
cool.
Aaron, what's my math there? Is that was that 3 questions right for Patrick
Yeah,
here?
probably.
I think that's 3.
I plead the 5th.
From now on, Aaron, you're in charge of keeping the questions, the tallies.
Okay,
But
I'll have to keep a tally machine.
Patrick, I feel like this is not the last time we're going to have you here on the Oblivion Bar, so we're going to try again the next time and see if you do a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm game anytime, even if I'm horrible. I had fun doing it. I stopped. It was funny. I remember playing Trivial Pursuit like young, like way too young. And just understanding that I was horrible at it.
Yeah.
And then it set the bar for me to be like, I'm not that good at game show stuff. So I'm like very much like okay with it. Sometimes I get a hot streak. This was not one of them.
I'll tell you, like I'm a big fan of a lot of things. I'm a fanatic, I'd say, in a lot of things, but my recall is never great in like trivia settings. So I don't ever judge anybody who's not good at this kind of thing. But
can you imagine Jeopardy, you guys?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, can't do
I
it.
would like be horrible. I'd be like worthless.
Well, Patrick, always a pleasure to have you here on the Oblivion Bar podcast. So excited.
Oh, likewise, you guys. Thank you again so much for getting me back on.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
I mean, I love your show regardless. So this is a treat. It's a huge treat.
Yeah. We love having you on. Let's not wait an entire year next time to get you on.
Yeah.
Let's get you on for something sooner than that. But I will say, and I think I can speak for Aaron here. I'll say that like, it's easy to root for some of these creators. And I think you are among those like the top of folks that whether we are a fan of the work, whether we would be a fan of the work or not, we would still root for you. But it just so happens that all the things that you've done so far, Patrick, we love. So it's easy. It's super easy.
Thank you so much. You guys are the sweetest. Thank you so much.
And when you can get my wife to like want to read a comic, like that is amazing. And so like I don't know if you remember because you were pretty busy at your table when I want to say it was C2E2 and you had the cards, the covers, and like I showed my wife the covers that you had at your table, and I was like, yeah, it's Patrick. He's been on the show. Like it's amazing. And she's like, what's the book about? And she's like, you have to buy it. Buy it. Like that thing's gonna be worth like so much more. You're never gonna find another one like that. Buy it. So like from the first minute, like my wife was like super supportive of your comic book as well, which never happened. So you are that is talent, my friend.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge honor. I appreciate that. And yeah, those little trading cards were hilarious. Those were like a super sweet, special little thing we had for last year. So glad you got that, dude.
Yeah, me too. Again, it's one of my prized things. The fact that you signed it for me, I keep it in the box just so that thing doesn't rub off, and I'm good. I'll hang on to that thing forever.
Patrick, the last thing I'll say before we head out of here is, and I meant to mention this earlier when we were talking about sort of this amazing amount of success that you've had since the release of Beneath the Trees, is that you handle it extremely well too. Like you are still very current in terms of like going on other podcasts, not just ours, but I feel like you're on a show at all times. Like at least weekly, you're on some kind of podcast.
Feels that way,
right? But also, I
mean, it's.
Well, I want to say very specifically, like at conventions too. Like I've witnessed multiple times, just sort of, there are times where I want to go up and say hello to you, and you're already being swarmed by someone doing something, and you've always got a smile on the front of your face, and you're always really open. Just it's very admirable and really cool to see.
Oh well, thanks. I feel, I may not mention it already multiple times, but again, like this book has been very much a gift to me. Like Beneath the Trees is very much a gift to me. And I'm just glad to be here. Like, I'm glad I get to do more.
I say that a lot.
And it's just, I mean, like, listen, I've met both of you now, and it's been like in real life as well. And it's just been like, it's a huge treat. And I don't know. I mean, I think I mentioned this before too, but like I've done this for just a couple of years now in terms of actually like being with a publisher, et cetera. But it's like the first time maybe ever that I've really felt like I'm doing what I should be doing. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know, like I might disappear at some point. Nobody cares about anything else I do, whatever. I'm totally prepared for that to happen at some point, but like, I'm so happy to be here right now.
Well, if we need to look for you, we'll look at we'll suspect the bear first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Well, Patrick, before we let you go, how can folks how can they follow your career? Is there anything cool that you have upcoming outside of the sequel to Beneath the Trees?
Well, at the moment, yeah, that's the thing I'm working on right now is the follow-up to Beneath the Trees. So I'm working on Rite of Spring, and I'm pretty much going to be like neck deep in that for the most of the year, probably. I mean, best way to keep in touch with me is like if you just go to patrickhorvath.com, you can find everything you need there. I've got like a newsletter. Whenever I do have updates, I'll put it on there. Or you can also follow me on Instagram at CatbirdPlanet, or you can follow me on Blue Sky at Patrick Horvath. And that's honestly like some of the best ways to get in touch.
Mm-hmm. We'll have everything linked in the show notes, everybody, to make it real easy on you. But Patrick, what a pleasure as always. Thank you so much. And we cannot wait to have you back on the show at some point down the road.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, you guys. Thank you.
All righty. There's that conversation with Patrick Horvath. As we said in the intro, what a guy. We're just a huge fan of his top to bottom, as we said a moment ago. He is just the best. So once again, free for all, March 26th. Go grab it. If you haven't read Beneath the Trees for some reason, first of all, yeah, shame on you, but also like go do it now. Stop listening to us and go read Beneath the Trees where nobody sees.
I love the fact that he just went full on into like do the weird thing.
Do the weird thing.
Do the weird thing, because that's one thing I think that is so awesome about his work is that it's so genuinely abnormal.
Yeah. Authentic, I think, is a good way to describe it.
It's authentic, but it's also authentically like abnormal. It's not the cookie cutter stuff. It's not the same thing. It's not the common formula. It is something that we've never seen. And honestly, it's his weird thing that he created. And I fucking love the fact that he did the weird thing.
Right. And I think it's worth saying that like we embrace the weird, right? Like,
oh yeah.
One of my,
don't yuck anybody's young.
One of my favorite memories here on the show is when I said that Fiona Staples matched Brian K. Vaughan's weird. And he's like, but she's not weird. And I'm like, you're not hearing what I'm saying, Brian. It's a good thing. Weird is good. Yeah. Like we like the weird. We want the weird. Because like you said, it's a singular voice in a landscape of house style, right? Like when someone has their own voice in the medium, I latched to that. It's part of the reason why I started really loving, a lot of my favorite creators working today are because they are so singular in their voice. Like I love a house style. I love a Daniel St. Pierre and a Dan Mora, but there's something about a Zoe Thorogood. There's something about a Trad Moore that really speaks to me on a level that have their own particular style that we really latch to. And that's really important. All right, everybody. Well, that'll do it for our conversation with Patrick Horvath. Once again, Patrick, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. And we will have you back on the show in the near future. That is the hope.
Did that not make you giggle that he's like, I love your show?
He said it the first time he was on the show, and he said it again here. We'll never get tired of that. Anytime that we have a creator on that we adore and they say that they listen to the show, that right there is bewildering.
Let alone like it.
Right.
But the fact that they fucking listen.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, it'll never not be awesome. Another double negative for you. But it's one of those things that the fact that Patrick did so terribly at our hey kids, it's true or false time doesn't even bother me. The fact that he had a good time. Yeah, he had fun. Yeah. That's all that matters, So next week on the show, everybody, it's kind of ambiguous, Aaron, to be honest. Not 100% on what we're going to do here. I currently have, because at the time of this recording, as you're listening to this, I have already gone off to Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City and had a great time with some friends that you may know, the First Issue Club there out in Kansas City. So we may put together a little interview-a-thon over in Kansas City. But if I, for some reason, don't want to do that, we'll come up with something else. So just keep your eyes peeled and your ears open for something that we plan on in the next week or so. So stay tuned. I know that's super ambivalent and not really committing to anything, but
I'm just saying, don't press us on the subject.
Yeah. Stop. Don't worry about it. Like, why do you even care?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Aaron will be in Iceland, so he's definitely not going to care. So
it's not like we're going to be versus the world or anything.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Scott.
You punched the highlights out of her hair.
He punched the highlights out of her hair.
Gelato's not vegan.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Oblivion Bar. Aaron, take us out of here.
Subscribe to our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, that's where we'll be. Thank you to our patrons, Alex, Alice, Aaron, Botter, Chris S., Chris Y., Chris D., David, Elliot, Erica, George, Gianni, Greg, Haley, Ham6, Jake, Jeremy, Kyle, Losi, Mac, Miles, Mike, Olivia, Ryan, I, Robert, Saunter, Sean, Trevor, Travis, Zach, and Brad, and Lisa.
He punched the highlights out of her hair.
You know how much time it took to get all these names together? 2 hours. If you want to support the show without spending any money, follow on your preferred podcasting platform, and a 5-star rating and or review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify helps the show a ton. I don't know how many times I got to say this. 187 times?
11 million times?
11 million times. Just go and just drop a review.
A 5-star review, please.
5-star review.
Yeah.
Like, please.
It helps the show.
Please. It helps. It helps. Follow us on social media, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok, @Oblivion Bar Pod. Official merch of the show, like the shirt I'm wearing, which is a beautiful.
It's a sweet-ass tie-dye shirt.
Tie-dye Oblivion Bar shirt, modeled in nude. Official merch of the show is found on our website, oblivionbarpodcast.com. Thank you, KXD Studios, for all of our Oblivion Bar art. He's at KXD Graphics on Instagram. Thank you, Dream Kid, for all of our musical themes. Thank you, DJ Skyvac, for our grid theme. And don't forget to tip your bartenders 20% or more, or you'll get seated right next to the bathroom door at an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Everyone, please don't hold us to the tease at the beginning of the show. We don't know if it's real yet, but we hope it's real, and we cannot keep things a secret here on the Oblivion Bar. So
I'm too high to know if it's real.
I'm too drunk to taste this chicken. And with that, that'll do it for the Oblivion Bar, everybody. We'll see you next week for episode 188.